Well, I started violin when I was 3 years old after seeing some older girls playing violin in my church. And I just fell in love with the sound of the violin, and I've been in love with it ever since. Definitely my church was a big influence in my life. I started playing in worship the music of Bach when I was 4 years old, and I first soloed with an orchestra when I was 7. And it's just so much fun to play these great violin concertos and travel all over the world. But besides classical music, definitely my favorite rock and metal bands have also been a big inspiration because of the wonderful energy that they bring to their concerts. And so when I perform, I try to have a mixture of the sophistication of classical music, but also the excitement of rock.
Mas é claro que Rachel tem a sua preferência, é a Earthen Grave. E não é à toa, ela é uma das integrantes dessa banda heavy metal norte-americana.
Classical music is my first love, for sure. I mean, that's what I live for, is classical music. And actually, one of the things that many people don't realize is that classical can be just as intense as metal, especially live in concert with 100 people on stage playing with so much passion. And so I really encourage my fellow rock fans to come to classical concerts, because the interesting thing is many of the great metal bands are very inspired by classical music. Well, I particularly love thrash. Pantera, Slayer, Megadeth, Anthrax, of course, Sepultura, and then, you know, like Black Sabbath, AC/DC, many bands.
Yeah, come on. Don't stop now. Hey, come on down.
Well, when I play in my own metal band, it's not with this instrument. I have a flying V with 6 strings. So these same 4 strings plus 2 lower strings, and it straps onto my body so I can headbang while I play. And of course it's electric, so it's very loud. And that's a special kind of pleasure because, of course, the audience can be very energetic while the performance is taking place, as opposed to classical music where the audience needs to be very quiet to catch all of the subtleties. But of course classical is so satisfying because of the nuances and the refinement and all of the details. So I guess they satisfy different things. But in my band it's bass, drums, vocals, 2 guitars, and violin. And so the violin gets to play many different roles. I don't think there's any conflict between classical and rock, because historically many great rock musicians are classically trained and consider classical music to be a big influence in their music. I've had the opportunity to meet many of my favorite bands, and they talk a lot about the classical music that they love. Listening to music by Bach, by Paganini, by Shostakovich or Berlioz, music from the Baroque period, the Romantic period, virtuoso violin music. It's a big influence in rock music, and so the 2 kinds of music are very closely related. And what's really interesting is to see exactly some things from violin repertoire that are right there in metal pieces. Actually, the wonderful thing is when I'm playing the original classical music, you can see influences of rock. Well, of course, rock wasn't invented yet, but you can see already in there some of the same excitement that that audiences know and love.
Rachel vê o rock e a música clássica para além das apresentações e arranjos especiais. Tanto que ela tem um projeto nos Estados Unidos que une os 2 estilos no mesmo palco.
I have a program that I sometimes do with orchestras. I have only done it in the US so far, but I have my own orchestrations of Metallica, Ozzy Osbourne, Black Sabbath, Rush, AC/DC, many rock songs, and then I basically do rock classical with Sibelius and Shostakovich and Bruch and Paganini, Vivaldi, various classical pieces to show how both musics are so wonderful, mostly for the rock fans so that they can discover how great classical is and hopefully start to come to orchestra concerts. But it's amazing how well some of these rock pieces work for orchestra. Completely unamplified, no drums, just a regular orchestra.